Okay, thanks again for staying with us on the show TMI Thursday. For solid 3 years, good 3 years, the trial of Alhaji Hamisu Bala, also known as Wadume, lasted. And just a few days ago, Justice Binta Iyanko of Federal High Court in Abuja convicted and sentenced him to 7 years imprisonment for his role in being a kidnap kingpin in Taraba State. I recall that in July, some members of his gang were also sentenced. Some 3 years, depends on the weight of the offense. But that judgment had largely been established when we actually started trailing it, that considering the crimes committed by this man, the sentencing was too light. As a matter of fact, I think it's Horiwa, Human Rights Associations of Nigeria, that said it was a paperweight sentencing given to Hamisu Bala, compared to what another famous, notorious kidnap kingpin, talking about Evans, got. Well, I brought into the studio some lawyers to help us make sense of this judgment that is attracting a whole lot of reactions across the country. Let me thank very especially Barrister Matthias Obayiwana. Thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you, sir.
I also have with us Barrister Matthew Dagisa. Barrister Matthew, thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, this is a trial that lasted 3 years involving the notorious kidnap kingpin Alhaji Bala Hamisu, also known as Wadume. What do you make of the judgment, the whole processes, and all the activities involved that got us to where we are today? Let me begin with you, Barrister Matthias.
Yes, well, it's often said that one is presumed innocent under the Constitution until the guilt is proved. And the one who has the burden to prove that guilt is the prosecution. It is the weight of evidence placed before the court that the court can, use material the court can use to decide the fate of the person being charged and then the sentence that follows. I followed through the processes that led to the sentence. We cannot place blame on the court. The court has done all that is required of it to do. We are not engaged in adversarial, in a custodial system of criminal advocacy or justice dispensation in Nigeria. What we are engaged in is adversarial. So the judge is just an independent umpire, or neutral body who assesses the case being put forward by the prosecution, and that being brought forward by the defense, and then deciding one way or the other based on the materials before the court. The court, in its wisdom, has sentenced Wadume and others, for Wadume for 7 years imprisonment without any option of fine. And the grounds upon which the court convicted was that of illegal possession of firearm and escape from police custody when he was arrested. Those were the two counts. Whereas in the counts that was brought against him, there were a count for kidnapping and collecting ransom. There were other counts for murder and the rest of it. But quite strangely, the prosecution, who has the constitutional burden to prove the guilt of the defendant, didn't bring such evidence to court. The evidence, the charge of kidnapping was struck out for lack of evidence, and every other charge. So, can the judge turn himself to is he a magician that whatever record before you, you begin to delve into it to give decision? It's not done. That kind of decision would be perverse, and that can already be overruled by the Supreme Court, by the appellate court.
Okay.
So it was based on what was given to him. So the buck stops at the table of the prosecution.
Okay.
They are the office of the General of the Federation who did the prosecution. They were those who amended the charge to remove the military officers that went to the rescue of Wadume, killing other police officers in the process. Their names were originally in the charge. The AGF amended the charge to remove their names for whatever reason.
Okay.
So the blame is with the prosecution, who has the constitutional burden of proving the charge against the defendant. So to the basis of the evidence before the judge,
she gave her judgment. Let me pause it there. But Matthew, as a lawyer, I mean, you are a lawyer of high standing of several years in the bar. Give us your perspective on the role of the law officer, the chief law officer of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, talking about the Attorney General and Minister of Justice, as far as this case is concerned.
It is a sad day for our criminal justice administration system, that people who have been alleged to have committed a very heinous crime against the states and the people of Nigeria are now being treated like people who committed misdemeanor, minor offenses. If an offense of rape can carry as much as 40 years imprisonment, we're talking about high-profile kidnap issue. Wadume issue led to the killing of some very gallant policemen who went to effect the arrest. That was a very sad day in our national history. A certain captain was fingered. This Wadume was in cuffs. They kidnapped him again. They kidnapped the kidnapper. They rescued him from the sheriff. Killed the sheriff that arrested him. Took him to a workshop where they have to use a welding machine to unlock the cuffs. So it was as terrible as that. It was a very terrible national security breach. That is even a very major offense. Treason is even there. Not to talk of the original offense of kidnapping, serial kidnapping issues or cases. He was not just a kidnapper, a kidnapping kingpin who have been linked to several acts of kidnapping within the houses. In fact, he was superintending over kidnapping activities in those many states in that, is it Northwest now? Yeah. Or North Central?
North Central.
So, how such a man now went away with a light sentence of seven years imprisonment beats everybody's imagination. My colleague was talking about the role of the Attorney General of removing some accomplices. That does not vitiate the fact that the main suspect has a case to answer. If there are 20 suspects in the murder charge, and each of them is individually liable if they are found guilty, the removal of one does not stop the pressure of the other. So as much as the motive of the AG cannot be said to be altruistic and patriotic, we cannot now use that as an excuse to set Wadume free. This is like a discharge and acquitter.
7 years imprisonment without any option of crime.
No, compared to, look, Evans, you just mentioned Evans. Evans was sentenced to death.
Sentenced to life imprisonment.
The punishment for kidnapping.
For kidnapping.
Punishment for capital offenses. You are not talking about anything like 7 years imprisonment. He said that death or life imprisonment. So anything outside those two, you are treating it as if it was a case of stealing across the counter.
Stealing goat and sheep and
chickens. And it is an incentive for would-be criminals.
Okay.
You are not making it look like killing people, kidnapping, and committing a heinous crime is not a serious thing. That you can do it and being a locust now, classical, that Wadume did it, nothing happened. Why can't I also give it a try? So the Attorney General involvement was negative because the captain who gave the order to kill policemen, who went to arrest state enemies.
Withdrew from the charge?
The very reason for withdrawing that, initially they were not even ready to prosecute that captain. They were for dragging. When eventually there was public opinion, pressure to bring him in, they brought him in and removed him again. So this is politics of granting incentives to criminality.
Okay.
And it is condemnable.
Okay. Barrister Matthias, the AGF said, like we read in the papers, the reason for withdrawing the captain and those who were involved in the killing of those policemen that went to arrest Wadume at the time was to allow the Nigerian army carry out their own internal processes of dealing with such issue through a court-martial. What do you make of that?
No, I don't subscribe to that.
For 3 years?
The Nigerian army, they are subject to the laws of this country, even though they have their military rules for dealing with such offenses, which I believe to be on the issue of this demeanor. If at all a Nigerian army officer had to be dealt with, 3 years is sufficient for the military police or the agency in the military to look at that issue, convict and dismiss the officer and hand him over to the state for prosecution. So you brought him in, you took him out, then what has happened? Within 3 years, where is that officer today? Was he tried? Was he court-martialed? Has he been convicted? And has he been rearranged? Then why was there no evidence before the court to try Wadume on kidnapping? Because the issue is being made here as if Wadume was tried for kidnapping, and then despite that, the court sentenced him, convicted for kidnapping, and sentenced for 7 years imprisonment. No, he was not convicted for kidnapping. The court struck out the charge for kidnapping because there was no evidence before the court. So the question is, Mr. Prosecutor, the AGF, where is there no evidence against Wadume for kidnapping? You didn't present that evidence before the court. Like I said, the court is not a magician. It is what you play before the court will use to decide. There are no facts, there are no evidence to show that an offense of kidnapping are taking place before the court, and that time was struck out for want of evidence.
So is this a political judgment in your opinion?
That is the point. So it should not be a case of sacred cowism, where the AGF decide who to charge, who not to charge, and then to satisfy the public opinion, and just to allay their fears, you now bring a kangaroo charge before the court, and then in the middle of it all, you know what to do. You brought either weak evidence or no evidence at all before the court. So where there's no evidence to meet the ingredients or the element of the offense of kidnapping, the court cannot convict. So the court simply struck out that charge for kidnapping. And then for the escape from custody, you cannot attribute that the killing of the officers to Wadume, but the military officers.
Yeah.
He was in handcuffs, he was in custody, and some other person came from outside to kill the officers and to release him. Yeah. You cannot accuse him for the murder. Even though you want to call him accomplice to the charge, but he was just out there. He didn't play any role. The officers outside, the military officers outside that played the role. Yeah. That should be taken very, very seriously. So he was not charged for murder. He was not convicted for murder. He was convicted for illegal possession of firearm and for escape from custody. 7 years imprisonment without any option of fine. I think that is fair enough, as far as those 2 counts are concerned. But it was not for kidnapping. So we must make it clear that they did not convict him for kidnapping. The prosecution failed to bring evidence before the court to make that offense of kidnapping. So the question, all the questions should be taken to the table of the AGF. Why did you do a wishy-washy job in terms of prosecuting this officer? Because, like I said, he enjoyed the constitutional, a provision that he was presumed innocent.
Until it's proven otherwise.
Exactly. Yeah. So there was no evidence otherwise against Wadume for kidnapping. There was no, so the court struck it out.
Okay.
So in addressing these issues, we will look at it holistically.
All right. Let me get Barrister Matthew. Yeah, Barrister Matthew, you want to add something to that?
As much as there will be this possible justification for this obvious act of sacrilege, I refuse to subscribe to it, because this same court has sentenced people who stole groundnuts across the counter to a lengthy sentence. The same justice system. When you begin to say there is no evidence, evidence is what the court says it is. Yes, it's not cast in stone.
It's what the court says it is.
Yes,
it's not before the court.
But the court, it must be brought before the court.
Because for lack of evidence,
if you say there is no evidence, there was investigation reports. That is evidence. Police people were killed who went to effect arrest of this person. Are you saying the man was set free from police? He was not a captive. He was set free from custody.
Yeah.
By orders.
Yes.
By orders.
Let loose by the AGF.
It's accomplices. Nobody,
in the police and in the army.
Yeah, nobody goes to set a prisoner free without having communication.
Absolutely.
This was not even a formal custody. It was in transit. Who put the call across? It was in the public domain that it was Wadume that told the people, his friends, that I'm under distress, so come and help me.
Come and rescue me.
So there is clear case of conspiracy.
Between who and who now? Between
Wadume and his gang. Those who came to rescue him. It's like a member of a robbery gang was arrested. He called the other member of the gang and said, they are taking me. They swoop on the police, overpower them, and
set him free.
Listen. Yes. Conspiracy is like an open sore in that case. It can't be covered.
Yeah.
You need little evidence to even prove that. Because that evidence was like, it's fundamentally established. It's self-evident. That's what I want to say. It's self-evident. You cannot now tell me police went to make arrest of a notorious kidnapped suspect, a kingpin, not an apprentice, not his boys, the man himself. Yes. There are chains of information that led to this busting his own ring.
Yeah.
And the police that went were killed. And you are telling me those who came to kill the arresting officers, you have no business with them? That they acted in isolation.
Well, that's what it seems now. That's what it seems. Yeah.
I'm saying there is a high profile conspiracy and collusion.
Yeah.
Between
among the state actors.
The state actors now.
Yes. At the highest level, and it is a very sad day for modernity and our civilization. Justice has been murdered in this case. Because everything that is making it look like Wadume would have been unjustly arrested, all those kidnap allegations were fairy tales. The killing of the policeman was a Nollywood movie. It never really happened. It was a script. It will make everybody's conscience to develop a scar.
Okay, let me come to you. What option, I mean, from our legal processes, our justice system, is this case, is it the end of the road for this case?
Well, ordinarily, it shouldn't be the end of the road. But here we are dealing with persons who have been fingered to have done a bad job. The same persons that we expect to take the issue on appeal. What do you expect from them? So, for me, from what I've read concerning the issues, and the fact that the court struck out the charge for kidnapping for want of evidence, if you are a judicial officer and the person who's prosecuting did not bring evidence, if you are alleged, for example, to have maybe stolen a key, and that key was not found in your possession, the person who alleged that against you could not show that they saw you taking any key or any evidence put before the judge that such things have ever happened. Can the judge manufacture evidence to convict? It will not.
I will come to that.
So the judge cannot manufacture evidence to convict. Everything is with the AGF. Like he said, it's high-profile conspiracy, because he was seen to be, somebody high-profile personality in that realm of kidnapping. There are many persons who have been involved in the process. That's why to see a military officer and a police officer to go, rescue somebody who has been arrested for kidnapping. And then they didn't stop this. The officers that were convicted, when you go to make arrest in a particular location, you will make an entry that you are here to arrest XYZ. The entry that was made, saying the officers went there to tear it off from the record. Yeah. After they have arrested the military men and all that. So they tore it also, and there will not be evidence that anybody left particular location to go and effect an arrest. So those ones were convicted. Yeah. So you let the military officers out of it. Those who were involved in the killing of other officers, you let them as if it never happened. Like you say, as if it was Nollywood script. It never happened. It was just, it was not real. Yeah. So why would the AGF do that? So that is the question. So in prosecution, the problem must be made to understand the fact that there's a lot here that meets the eye. Because as far as the court is concerned, it is what we play before the court that the court will decide. If there was evidence before the court for kidnapping, and the court now said, oh, I gave you 7 years imprisonment without of fine, I would have joined in that follow to say, look, it was wrong. Travesty of justice on the part of the judiciary. But you cannot blame that on the judiciary now. Because to say gun running and escape from custody, those were the offenses that you were convicted of those two offenses that you felt you were able to prove. And then of that 7 years imprisonment without any option of fine for him. As against an offense for kidnapping, that would have been proved before the court. Of course, that would have been either maximum punishment or life imprisonment, as was in the case of Evans. That is not the case here. Evans' case was for kidnapping. He was convicted for kidnapping. In this case, there was no evidence for kidnapping before the court.
So it's like the prosecution team watered down the evidence before
yes, they have watered it down. They decided what to bring before the court. So they brought it before the court and they plan to work with what he has. So if everybody go bring the searchlight is on the office of the AGF.
Okay.
Why the amendment? Why excluding those who killed? Why there no evidence to prove the offense of of kidnapping? The AGF and the police, those two organs who did the investigation, they did a very bad job. So if you're asking now for anybody to take on the matter on appeal, is to look at the record. Any public interest litigator can also do that. You can apply for a fiat.
Okay.
If the AGM is not willing to take on the matter on appeal, apply for a fiat, take a look at the records and see whether or not there were evidence before the court and the court decided to look the other way.
Okay.
To say there was no evidence.
All right, Barrister Matthew, and with the sort of public outcry that has greeted this conviction, do you foresee the AGF and the prosecution team perhaps revisiting this case to perhaps appeal the judgment so far?
My opinion, my humble opinion, personally speaking, I do not see this as a conviction. I see this as a tactical acquittal. Judicial clean bill of heads, done in a very masterful way. There's no conviction here relative to what transpired. So there is what we call judicial activism. If the AGF wanted to shortchange the system, the state, before the court is under oath to uphold justice. There are certain cases you stamp your authority and make an order. You made a direct order. It will be binding. Go and bring that document. If you refuse, then you are concealing evidence. Evidence that is concealed will be used against you. And in any case, the AGF is not above the law. It has no immunity. It has no immunity. It should explain to the court why he's obstructing justice. That is obstruction of justice. You are removing principal actors. In a crime as heinous as this, a crime against the system, the entire state, and the people of Nigeria, and people in active duty, patriots, died. They were killed. Not that they were killed accidentally. They were killed deliberately. And they set the same subject free from their arrest. Not just set him free, they took him to a workshop, like an automobile, and started working on him to remove the cuffs. So these are things that, let me tell you, it is not before the court officially. It is before the court informally. That would have triggered the spirit of judicial activism. Yes. The judge should have made a last statement that you can't come to this court and use us to achieve justice.
So you're saying we cannot completely, comprehensively exonerate the judge?
No. Judicial activism all over the world, they have made some serious pronouncements that led to case laws. You don't just sit back. Yes, you don't sit back and
just not saying the judge was complacent in this case.
They may have this on level because if a judicial officer and
you should do something.
Such a high-profile case,
it's too open to be covered.
That everybody is so much engaged.
That made a strong statement.
And you are now making applications, phony applications to excuse certain persons. You are not bringing evidence to court. The court should look at the evidence that was brought before the court to see. And to find out why certain evidence are not being brought, why are you not doing your job. So the court will have some, strong words for the prosecution. Not just to readily accede to their request. You should find why are you doing this? Why are you shooting this man? Why is this man not here? Okay, you have to go and try him. The matter took 3 years.
Imagine.
They should have some question on their part. And if they are not answer those questions in the judgment, I've not read the full judgment. In the judgment, there will be some strong remarks against the prosecution and the AGM. Why certain things happen? Because at the end of the day, it is the record before you that you work with. That's why I ask now that a public interest litigator can apply to the AGM, they're not going to appeal, to ask for a fiat, to appeal against that decision. And when they file the appeal, they look at the records of court to see whether there actually evidence that the court decided to look the other way. You know, if there are no evidence at all before the court, there's nothing we can blame the court on. But like I said, which I agree with him, the court should have placed some resistance on the part of the prosecution so that you don't make it so easy for them just to come in there and do their human job and get away with it. Because it's very bad. Many of those cases have happened in this country. This just a tip of the iceberg showing us that this kind of things have been happening. Prosecution will come to court
as a clearinghouse.
Police will come to court and just clear people and just file a very poor charge.
Court will sit back and watch it.
And then you allow the court. So the court must always ask, why is it like this? This is the charge. This is the evidence before me. The proofs. Why is this man not here? Why is this evidence not brought before me? You know, if they cannot give any
produce it.
Even as we are deciding on the fact before you, you should make some strong remarks.
If the judge is doing that, wouldn't it look like she?
Step into the arena?
Wouldn't it look that way?
Because justice is three-way traffic.
Demanding for justice.
Justice for the defendants, justice for the complainants,
for the
justice for the society.
That's it.
So the court stands that position to bridge the gap between justice for the society. There must be a policy statement for the court, so that whoever reads that judgment will see that, oh, these were the officers that did this bad job and not the court. Don't just keep quiet and allow it to flow. To now appear as if it comes some level of complacency. Oh, anyway, the rule is
it's not my fault.
Whatever is brought before me is what I will use to decide. So when you are sitting down there as the judge, people are doing things around you, you just allow them to do it. I want to withdraw, okay, withdraw. This evidence, it was here, but they're not going to come and testify. Let them be. The judge has a duty
compel a witness
to compel a witness to come. If that witness will give an evidence that's very important to the case and is unwilling to come, the court can issue a warrant for the arrest of that witness to come and testify. Okay. You can't decide to because there are certain cases that you can compromise.
It's too heavy.
High-profile cases is difficult to do.
All right. When we return after this short break on the discussion segment of TMI, we'll look at some recent judgments by some courts of coordinate jurisdiction that seems to suggest that perhaps the sentencing given to Wadume is indeed very, very light. We'll talk about all of that, but we need to take this break. We'll be back with you.
TMI, every opinion counts.
Okay, thanks again for staying with us on the show. Back to our conversation on the sentencing of Alhaji Hamisu Bala, also known as Wadume, the Taraba State kidnap kingpin who was sentenced recently to 7 years imprisonment, with some analysts like those we have in the studio here saying the sentencing was too light compared to the offense committed. But we know in law, a judge can't do otherwise. The judge's action is based on what is provided. But our legal practitioners here are saying that the judge has a responsibility to ensure that the right thing is done and justice is served. I asked a question earlier, what option is there for this case to go further than where it is now? Federal High Court has given judgment, but we wouldn't know, we can't tell for sure if the prosecutors will be willing to take it further to appeal the judgment to see that maybe a weightier sentence is given to Wadume. But let's make a comparison between the case of Wadume and Evans, the kidnap kingpin as well. Let me begin with you, Barrister Edegese.
If they are saying the charges of kidnapping and other terrible aspects of the charges were struck out, was that what they did? When you struck out a charge, it's not an acquittal. Let the state actors or whoever still love Nigeria go back and do a proper job and bring that same thing back. They should charge that thing properly with sufficient evidence that they are concealing, obviously hiding. Not that there's no evidence. Evidence is being suppressed, hidden by somebody in his docket. They should bring it out. I think the civil society group should now move out to save Nigeria from this international ridicule. Otherwise, foreigners will see Nigeria as a crime-friendly country. And that is not good for our drive to bring in foreign investors. Even tourists will be scared. They could be killed and they will say it was a motor accident, whether you see gunshot on his head. Motor don't fire guns. So if you have a country like that, it will become seen as a pariah state, a failed state. So they should not paint Nigeria in that light. You asked a question. You asked a question.
Yes, I asked a question as it relates to the conversation that we're having now, the justice system that we have, and how all of this can influence and affect future issues of this magnitude, and particularly against the background that we have a huge problem of insecurity in the country. And people try to even make a comparison between the Evans case and this Wadume case. Against the background, they look like both cases are on the same scale.
It's a very sad commentary. The truth is that it is going to serve as an incentive to boost the criminality industry. Criminals and those who are aspiring criminals will now begin to see Nigeria justice system as a walkover thing. You can do it and get away with it. If Wadume can't, then why can't I? That motivation has been served. Unless it is quickly dispelled, countered now that the wood is still fresh.
Do you see that happening?
It has to happen.
Do you see it happening?
It's not me wishing it to happen. It is a thing that must happen if we are to be saved as a people.
Who will make it happen?
The system is run by people. And this system, these state actors owe a duty not to run the system aground and destroy our collective destiny. Our public liberty is going to be in jeopardy. Our security will be in shambles. If people can kill you and they go and club thereafter, and the judiciary will smile at them, and the prosecuting agency will say, well, this evidence, we have it, but it's our discretion to release it. We chose not to. The only prosecution that the AG has power to do is born out of the interest of the state, not against the state interest, public interest. It's not a thing of personal whims and caprices. That power is to be exercised in a way that the system will benefit, not to injure the system. Let it be that the National Assembly members who have the oversight function are not in a slumber. This is a norm for the AG sack to be insisted upon. They should find an AG who is working against the justice of the system. It should not be condoned.
Okay.
And again, you have terrorist cases that up to now, since terrorism bettered in Nigeria, over a decade ago, we have not seen any high-profile conviction. This is the way the route they have been taken. There is a clearinghouse for serious...
Where is the clearinghouse?
Kabiru Sokoto, I don't know of any sentence on him as we speak. Either death sentence or life imprisonment. There are several other names in this terrorism, industry now, business. They have never been touched. All we hear is that they have even been given a pardon, they have been branded repentant. This is the route they have been taken. And this must stop if we don't all want to go down the drain as a people. All right,
Barrister Matthias, quickly, give me your take on the implication of this selective justice system that we have. I mean, A commits a crime, it gets a judgment or a sentencing, this magnitude. B commits a similar crime, it gets another judgment, perhaps of lesser weight. I mean, in recent times, we can count several cases of either murder, molestation, rape. There was the case of a young girl who was deceived that there's a job offer somewhere, I think in Calabar or so, and in the process, the young guy who tricked her, raped her, and killed her in the process. And we know the young man has been sentenced to death. And then Baba Ijesha is a popular Nollywood actor who molested a minor, sentenced to 16 years imprisonment. There was also another Muslim cleric in Lagos State who defiled an 8-year-old girl. He was sentenced to about 14 years imprisonment. We cannot forget the story of Hanifa in, I think in Kano State, where a school proprietor kidnapped a 5-year-old girl and raped her and killed her. And of course, he also has been sentenced to death. So when you look at this comparatively to the Wadume case who has been described as a kidnap kingpin, masterminding kidnap activities, killing, maiming, raping, destruction of lives and property. I'd like to get to perspective of what is the implication of this for the justice system in Nigeria?
Yeah, it is poor, and it all evolves from the political body language of the presidency. The AGF is one man who is so connected to the presidency. We are in a country these days where whatever happens, we say the presidency has spoken. So we keep talking about the president and the presidency. The president appears to be, with all modesty, inactive. The presidency appears to be more active. And so those who run the presidency, the AGF is number one. And the AGF is the one who prosecuted. He is the one who works with the investigative officers. He has an oversight function over them. And so that was what they brought before the court, like I keep saying. Because in all these instances, these double standards, as if we have justice for the politically connected, they are the rich, and then you now have justice for the poor and the less politically connected. That is what we have here. Whereas it's the same law, the same offense that were committed, the different measures of punishment dished out to them. Now, on the strength of the charge, because we must kind of create, a dichotomy difference between the Wadume case and the Evans case, for example.
Okay.
They're both dealing with case of kidnapping. They're both dealing with case of even murder in the process. And then they are both be charged to court. Evidence did not concealed in the Evans case. Everything came to court. Anyway, we can see the shenanigans. Brought someone to court, who set him free, who keep people, you took it off. You put it for kidnapping. The person that you alleged he kidnapped, is he dead? Why couldn't you bring him before the court? And to testify that, yes, this man kidnapped me, and they took ransom. We have no piece of evidence. You didn't bring him before the court. And then you can do the court now, and 100%. Put stamp and stick to ensure that, look, there is evidence. You alleged he kidnapped somebody. Where did he kidnap? If you cannot get other witnesses, where can't you get him? To ensure, get her, to ensure that lady will not come before the court and they have enough evidence, to convict. Here, like we noted, the lack of judicial activism plays out. And then the body language is there. The sacred cow is touch not my anointed and do them no harm. So there are certain people that are anointed. The Wadume is one of them. We're dealing with the case now of that guy now that work with the foreign guy.
Okay, I'm still in the bus tomorrow.
Somebody has built up evidence. You are doing a charade trial here. And then you have delayed the matter. You played cool, and what happened? The man who alleged against him that he was involved in the process had been convicted.
Hush puppy.
Yes.
It's cooling off in jail.
It's cooling off in jail. The person that finger, yeah, he's doing cover. They're doing a charade trial for him.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, so that is where we find the sacred cow is.
Okay.
So we need a man as the president of this country whose body language we start to say, a crime is a crime anywhere, no matter the tribe or persons involved. And we must serve justice, like I said earlier, to the society, to the public, to the defendant, and to the complainant.
All right, thank you.
So that the society now appears to have suffered injustice in all of this.
All right, let me get a final one from you.
Somebody who can come and change that narrative. So I'm doing this opportunity, this will be the last take, I don't know.
Okay.
And to urge on people now to call out, to vote for a right candidate in this election that's coming, so that the blood of this nation can be taken back, and this era of secret cowardice can be wiped out.
All right, Bryce Matthew, final word from you.
Final word is that Nigeria needs redemption. It is on a very swift drift towards the abyss. And if we are allowed to continue like this, we might all become terrible history sooner than we think.
All right, thank you very much. Well, I want to be thanks to you, Bryce Matthias, and Bryce Matthew, because it's math. Thank you for coming on the program. We'll take a short break. Breakfast Sports is up next with Salmon, and we're back to quality on TMI.